How you guys feeling? I love it. Well, it's such an honor to be here today. Thank you so much. So, the world's most successful companies don't just have customers. They have passionate fans that advocate for the brand, represent them, and even make it as part of their identity. In Web3, this phenomenon is amplified with new levels of ownership and co-creation. Those purchasing your product aren't just consumers. They're a community of co-creators and owners. We're going to explore how to build this type of passionate and engaged community through a case study of what I've experienced building one of the leading NFT communities and brands in the NFT space, World of Women. In his 2008 essay, Kevin Kelly said, "To be a successful creator, you don't need millions of dollars, millions of customers, millions of clients, or millions of fans. To make a living as a craftsperson, a photographer, a musician, designer, author, animator, app maker, entrepreneur, or inventor, you only need thousands of true fans. Even if you are scaling a business at the highest level, having a core community of passionate fans can do more for your brand than having millions of people who are not engaged. So what if you could create your 1,000 true fans in an authentic and Web3 native way?" We'll look at this across the full cycle of your business, what you can do when you're starting your company, scaling and growing your community, maintaining the momentum, and hopefully, if you succeed, thriving together. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Shannon Snow. I spent over 15 years in tech, 10 years in Silicon Valley, building and leading teams at Google, and then at Meta, leading the US entertainment team. This was me, Web2 me, at South by Southwest in 2022, giving a talk about how entertainment companies could adapt to the metaverse. A year ago, I left tech behind to pursue something that I believe will have greater impact, being the COO of World of Women. World of Women is the leading mission-driven NFT community and one of the top 8 best-selling profile picture communities of all time. WoW launched in July of 2021 with 10,000 diverse women avatars living on the blockchain with the goal of celebrating representation, inclusion, and equal opportunities for all. In less than 2 years, WoW has done over $300 million in primary and secondary sales across 2 collections. And we've achieved over 100 million in social reach as the profile picture for inspiring women, including Reese Witherspoon, Eva Longoria, Sofia Vergara, Shonda Rhimes, and more inspiring humans who use their WoW to showcase their values. Since then, we've built a diverse and global community. We have over 13,000 holders of our NFTs, 400,000 followers and supporters who amplify our mission. And in an industry that is heavily male-dominated, we are very proud to have broken the curve. 90% of many communities are male. WoW has 60% of women and non-binary holders. And we also have 40% men, many of whom say that they buy WoW because they want to build a better world for their daughters. Our community is 50% US, 50% global. And we were recently awarded the Best Community Award at the Muse Awards at the Metaverse Entertainment World Summit. But over the past 2 years, our community has operated, like you will, in a backdrop of volatility. This chart shows NFT sales from 2020 to 2023. The bull run of August 2021 through May 2022 ended with the Luna and Terra collapse and further declined as crypto gained more distrust with the FTX downfall. In 2023, we saw marketplace competition result in a decline of creator royalties, which was the main revenue stream for many NFT communities. This strained planned roadmap initiatives as they went underfunded, asset prices dropped, and as a result, many communities either failed or tore themselves apart. Why this should matter to you is the same reason it should matter to anyone growing a business. There is a time when you will be new and hot, there is a time when you will be not so new, and there is a time that you will be under fire. From my experience, everyone wants to be a part of your community when the numbers are up. The true question is, how do you build a community when the numbers aren't up? How do you build a community that stands by you no matter what? First and foremost, why should anyone care about your business or the problem that you're solving? You have to stand for a mission that matters. Before World of Women, profile picture collections like the Bored Apes were gaining momentum, but there was a huge problem. No collection at that time featured women avatars. Our founder and lead artist, Yam Karkai, saw that if this trend continued, women would be locked out of tech and economic opportunities in the same way that they had been throughout history. How are women supposed to play a role in the next generation of technology if they couldn't even represent themselves in Web3? This desire for equal opportunity really hit a nerve. In fact, 72% of our community says they are most aligned with WOW's value of creating equal opportunities for all, especially in Web3. Some of our earliest and most passionate supporters, like Gary Vee, found WOW, it connected with the mission, and evangelized us because it was so important to them. Now, it's one thing to stand for something on paper, but it's another thing to live by it. My advice is to show, don't tell. For World of Women, this meant donating over $2 million from our mint to women, girls, and climate causes, offsetting our carbon footprint, and building a school in Kenya with our partners Code Green and Too Young to Wed to fight child marriage. We dropped NFTs as a proof of donation to our holders so that they could have proof on the blockchain that they had been part of this impact. Gitcoin is another great example of doing this in a Web3 native way, with their open platform that has empowered communities to fund and build what's personally meaningful for them. Now, what does this mean for you? As you're starting your business is based on solving customer problems, but it doesn't stop there. There's a meaningful reason that that problem needs to be solved. I think Airbnb is a great inspiration for this. Absolutely, it solved the problem of being able to rent out your home and rent space in other people's homes. But the real reason that that business is so meaningful is that the number one thing that people wish they could do if they had more money and flexibility is travel. And Airbnb made that need possible within people. The takeaway for you is that you don't have to have a mission-driven business like WOW does, but you have to be able to articulate your why the problem you're solving matters in your customers' lives. This gives your community something that is meaningful to rally around. Once you've articulated your mission in a meaningful way, it's time to grow by showing up in a way that your community can get invested. The best way to do so is being as transparent as possible. Transparency helps establish trust among participants in a decentralized system. Transparency is expected across operations, financials, and decision-making, and it will be expected of you as a leader. Coming from my background in Silicon Valley, I was actually shocked doing my first Twitter Spaces with the World of Women community and finding that they wanted us to release things that I never would have thought to do in my previous role, such as full financial statements. We were a young startup, not a public company, and I didn't understand how we could possibly cope with this type of expectation. What I realized is in a traditional startup, we were operating in a really, really different environment. Scams preyed on newbies, rug pulls were common, people needed assurance that we had integrity in the system. If we weren't as transparent as we could be, I couldn't build trust with my community or get them to rally around us. What this means for you is that the expectations of you as tech leaders is way more than it's ever been before. It applies not just to the teams that you manage, but to the communities that you serve. When I arrived in Silicon Valley in 2004, I caught the end of Web 1 and soon after joined Google. Companies were campus-based, and the expectations of leaders was to set clear goals and manage to OKRs. When I moved to Facebook and Meta, expectations of leaders evolved. We were partially in office, partially remote, and it wasn't enough to set clear goals anymore. You had to showcase your authentic self in order to connect with your team and your community, and showcase that you were human in and out of the office in order to gain credibility with your team. In Web3, I found you have to do all of these things. You have to set clear goals. You have to be authentic. But over and above, you additionally have to be transparent. Your team and community is often 100% remote. You're building across many countries and languages. And transparency and making an effort to do that is critical. What I've anchored to is to treat my customers and my community the same way you might treat investors and advisors, as owners. Give them the behind the scenes of what you're doing. We address this by launching a monthly leadership newsletter, sharing the progress that we made, but also some of the mistakes and challenges we were facing as well. We debrief things with our community that I never would have thought to do previously, such as giving a detailed accounting of how we spent our team offsite, what the takeaways were, what the action items were for our business. And while we didn't release our full financial statements, we did talk to our community about why, that we might lose leverage in key negotiations, and some of the background and behind the scenes of how we were managing our treasury. The result is your community gets a front row seat into what you're building, your journey, and they build empathy for the type of trade-offs and decisions that you have to make. They see that you're operating with integrity, and they're bought into your leadership. Transparency goes hand in hand with another mantra of Web3, which is built together and in public. Just as voting in your local ballot initiatives makes you more invested in your local community, putting business decisions to your community makes them feel heard and fully invested. In March of 2022, World of Women had an opportunity to auction off a WOW at a Christie's evening sale. It was the only NFT in an auction that featured established artists, including Picasso. To select the WOW that was auctioned, we put it to the community. Holders hotly debated in our Discord which WOW would best represent us to this new audience. Then we put the vote to our DAO, which we call a DAWOW, and we rewarded those who participated. You got a POAP if you voted, and you got another POAP if you live streamed and supported that auction. As a result, when that NFT was sold for over 500,000 pounds, and our founding artist, Yam, became the top-selling NFT artist of all time, the entire community felt that thrill of being part of the success. Another common way to do this that transcends just Web3 is to create a council or committee that embeds or advises your team. Meta used to put large customers on a council to talk through key decisions, give input on new features in order to engage them in the decision-making process. Bored Apes similarly have a council that serves a year term and is paid to advise on key community issues. WOW did this in a transparent way. We opened applications and put it to a vote. We had opportunities to embed with our product, marketing, community, and foundation teams. And the community voted, and we had the top two join our Slack, join our team meetings, and be completely embedded into our operations. Adidas launched a similar structure and council for their Web3 community as well. It's very important for your community and customers to have input in what you're building. They will be more bought in. And this impacts the product side as well. The last thing you want to do as a startup is invest a ton of resources in building something that your customer doesn't want. You want to validate consistently with feedback so that you can save time. At World of Women, we leveraged blockchain technology to do this. We created a token-gated prototype of a new community empowerment platform that we're building, and we let holders vote on which features they liked, which ones they loved, or which ones they hated. We got both quantitative and qualitative data, and the result was that we were able to create a prioritized list of features based on what our real community wanted. The impact being that you can spend your runway building things that matter most to your community and to your long-term business. Once your community's bought in, it is time to nurture them. To do so, you have to create diverse and safe spaces for them to connect. In Web3, some of the key communication tools are Discord and Twitter. But a challenge that we faced at World of Women was that, unfortunately, both of these tools are very male-dominated. Global Discord usage stats shows that only 34% of Discord users are women. And shockingly, Twitter is similar, with about 32% women and 68% men. At a conference last year, we had over 100 women tell our community manager that they did not feel safe in Discord because they felt that they were going to be preyed upon for scams. We had to do a couple things to mitigate this. One, we had to create moderation policies that optimized for respect. We hired moderators inclusively across many time zones and across different perspectives, with a huge diversity of backgrounds. We gave them one rule: treat everyone with respect. We added them to our Slack to discuss different issues, because in reality it's quite difficult. Our community is global. They have very different perspectives on top issues. They're coming from a very different place, And there's no way that you can expect your community to agree, or would you ever want them to, especially on the most divisive issues in our day and in our business. But we found that even for really tough moderation issues in the Discord, listening to people, hearing them out, and showing them respect, even if you don't agree with their opinion, would de-escalate most situations. We've encouraged and empowered everyone on our WOW team to engage in the community through the Discord, especially when launching public-facing work. And we also encourage our mods to be what we want to see so that it impacts the broader community. For example, our moderators are known to take in people in the Discord, even if they're asking very newbie questions. They will help them, they will onboard them, whether they need to set up their wallet or they're not quite sure what an NFT is. What inspires me is that once people see the moderators doing this, community members who may be less engaged do this as well. And they're often seen helping people who may or just be a few weeks behind them in their Web3 journey. The second thing that we had to do was really diversify the platforms we were on. It was a no-brainer for us to build an Instagram presence, even though it's not a common Web3 communication tool. It was one that was more gender mixed and where our community felt comfortable. So I encourage you to look across platforms and see if you can diversify as well. We've experimented with different metaverses, doing events in Decentraland, building in the sandbox, and dropping on cyber homes to our community. The takeaway is, if you are over-relying on one channel for feedback or community building, you might be building for a very loud but unrepresented minority in your community. So it's important to diversify. One thing that you can experiment with is giving opportunities for your community to meet in new ways. Think about it not as diversifying platforms, but diversifying the connections that your community has within the community. One thing that's very common in the NFT space is you can be over-reliant on a single leader. A lot of your community will look up and lionize the leader, which is great, but it doesn't create a really resilient community. You want your community to have connections across, develop new relationships, and feel like they are connected to many different points within the ecosystem. One of the things that we tried was doing an onboarding session. Everyone who purchases the World of Women and joins the community, they're added to a monthly onboarding session where they meet not just someone from the team, but other members that have joined at the same time as them, so they can start to develop some of those more other relationships outside of the team. The impact is that the community can feel like they are part of a swarm, not just out there alone. Peloton is a great example and a master of this. As a rider, you build that connection with the bike, with the brand, with your instructor, but you also have that loyalty and connection with the swarm of people you're riding with through that in-app high fives, closed community groups, and team rides. Assuming you've made it this far, you have a core community, they feel safe, they're engaging with you and each other. The next step is to empower community initiatives. Here's what I mean. WOW decided to give the full intellectual property rights of the WOW artwork to our holders. A Galaxy Digital report found that WOW had the most permissive IP rights of all top projects. Why it matters is that WOW holders are able to license their WOW for brand opportunities, earning money for them, but also exposure for us. Here's an example of a holder that struck a deal with Hennessy's web3 initiative to use their WOW alongside a couple of Bored Apes, which has a similar IP approach. As a result, holders have created projects with their WOW that have allowed us to scale into new products and verticals that we can't do on our own. Eva Longoria created derivative merch based on her WOW that raised money for a charity that she was passionate about. Sakari from Hell's Kitchen created a green juice featuring his cybergreen WOW. These products not only are great and expansive, but they have a built-in audience of community members that want to see them succeed. If you implement something similar, you can scale beyond what's possible for you to personally control and do it in a decentralized way. And empowering your community doesn't just mean in a monetary way. It's within your power to help your community through visibility as well as connections. Your community is full of people that want help. They want help in their personal lives and their professional lives. WOW has a strong commitment to helping the artists that are in the next generation behind us. We have purchased, airdropped, collaborated with over 350 artists since our inception. And we're passionate about using our platform to elevate the next generation. We also started featuring members of our community. through our weekly spaces called Wow Wednesdays in Instagram and Twitter. And it allows us to use our platform to lift others up. This is Sarah Bauman. She has her own collection called Women in Weapons. And we interviewed her, and it helped her gain more visibility for her collection through our community. She loved it because she was able to promote her platform through a community that she's in. Our holders love it because they like to feel connected to other amazing women that are also in the community. And through this process, everyone feels grateful for WOW for making the connection. So I urge you to think about what you can do for your community, even when it's small. Your customers are solving the same challenges. That's why they're buying from you. You could connect them together so that they can meet others that have similar challenges to them. You could spotlight them through a case study and feature their business. You could help them network. You could help them get more followers for their social media. There's a lot of things that you can do to both elevate them and strengthen the relationship that you have and build this community around your product. Now that your community is built, they're bought in, they're empowered, it's time to give them the tools to amplify your story. The NFT project Pudgy Penguins does an excellent job at this. Their goal is to be an IP company. They empower their community to share their Pudgy Penguins IP by creating this meme creator that made it easy and fun to create memes and share them. It made their community a marketing arm for their business, garnering thousands, if not millions, of likes and impressions on social media. It also introduced this IP to people who were completely unintroduced to the NFT space, who just enjoyed the IP and got it from a friend. WOW found that live events are also an excellent way to build community, but planning all events centrally is labor-intensive, time-consuming, and expensive. Instead, we allocated a very modest budget to allow community members to create their own events. As a result, we've scaled globally to places like Korea and Malaysia, where we don't have staff and won't for a long time. I'd have people tell me all the time that they join World of Women after attending a KWOW event from the Korea World of Women chapter. The hosts feel like they're a part of the team, and it's a great way to scale on limited budget. It's also important to just pay attention to what your community is doing and be willing to build on the momentum. Sometimes it can be tough on the ego because your community may have better ideas than you do. We had a holder who photoshopped a pink tux onto her World of Women to celebrate that Christie's auction that I described earlier. Soon, others saw it on social media. They wanted a pink tux on their WOW, and she was photoshopping them and giving them to holders, not only for World of Women, but it scaled to other collections as well, with Sad Girls, Bored Apes, Crypto Chicks, all suiting up in this pink tux in order to celebrate this moment in female digital art and NFT history. Ultimately, we ended up building a tool that allowed holders to dress their WOWs for different events. And we ended up using it for brand collabs, such as a custom Adidas shirt that was made for the Black Ferns, a rugby team that all bought World of Women and ended up becoming the Rugby World Cup champions. If you listen to your community, they will tell you what they need. But not every idea is worth actioning on, but it's important to make them feel heard. And if you follow the themes, you'll be put in the right direction. Last but not least, don't forget to have fun. It's important to leverage gamification, entertainment, and other tactics just to make your product sticky.
Welcome to the inaugural WOW Gala. Over 1,000 people here with us tonight, watch all over the world on a virtual live stream made possible by Theta.
The community tonight is for you. It's for nobody else but you. It's to celebrate you and to cherish you.
This gala is incredible, so vibrant and so full of life. This is the event to be at. I'm really very privileged to be here.
The venue is incredible.
The music is a vibe.
Thank you so much for being so elegant.
The theme, Galactic Glamour, people just showing up and being dressed up. It shows that they care.
World of Women is not even 2 years old yet.
And I cannot believe we're at a place where we can actually present an award for digital fashion.
And the award goes to
The winner is Maggie!
Leslie.
Congratulations! Congratulations!
I didn't expect to win, honestly.
Thank you, the World of Women team.
The decoration, the music, everything is great. But most importantly is the people that you can connect with.
WOW's mission is to build an inclusive future.
People are creating deep links between each other.
I want to give a special shout out to the Unrevealed team for being our production partner.
Thank you, Johnny Walker Blue Label, for being our pouring partner. New hardware from Ledger.
What we really wanted to achieve was putting on an event that our community would feel proud of and that they felt like they were going to be welcome at. And I really think that we've achieved that tonight. We couldn't be more proud of how well it's gone.
Guys, life is short. People want to do things that spark joy. But in my experience, the most expensive thing that you do for your community is not proportional to what your community remembers most. Last year, World of Women did a Madonna concert, as well as this purple carpet gala that you saw. Part of that was making the community the star and elevating them. But when I look back at some of the things that really had an impact, it's the things that got the community involved. Before that event, we had the community sharing mood boards of their outfits, sharing what they wanted to wear, ideating on the galactic glamour theme, and you can see that the biggest part was how people showed up and seeing that there was this diverse community of people like them that they could be together with. And I hear way more positive feedback about the gala, about some of the little things that really just showed that we cared. For example, as a woman attending a gala, it's a few hours where you are wearing high heels. We had foot massages at that gala. It was not a huge expense, but I actually hear more positive feedback about those foot massages than some of the bigger things and more expensive things that you've done. So the takeaway for you is that it's absolutely possible to touch hearts and minds in a scrappy way if you just anchor to the key thing of what will bring my community the most joy. And just keep thinking of new ways to celebrate together. After we threw that huge event with over 1,000 people, one of the things that we realized is no matter how big of a room we get in, there's not going to be enough space to have all 13,000 members of our community together. So we had to find a way for us digitally to connect. We launched something called WOW Art Fest, which shared our love of elevating diverse artists. We timed it to the full moon so that every time you look at the full moon, you kind of think, when am I going to be able to celebrate Art Fest with my community? When will I be getting art from new and diverse women and artists? And it just creates new moments to celebrate together. As a result of this, 2 years into World of Women, through a crazy time and volatile time for crypto, we saw that the community was so passionate about our brand that created a viral moment, sharing their World of Women NFTs, and even trending globally on Twitter. So, what actions can you take? If you do 3 things after this talk, I urge you to 1, evaluate your mission and ensure that it's strong enough for your community to rally behind. 2, audit your engagement strategy. Is it transparent enough? Can people participate? Have I made it easy for people to share? And ultimately, am I showing enough respect? And then 3, when in doubt, just ask yourself, what's going to bring my community the most joy? Last but not least, you can of course follow us at World of Women NFT on Twitter and World of Women on Instagram so you can see what we're experimenting with, what we're trying, what we're failing at, and what we're learning along the way. Being in a startup, much less a crypto startup, in a bear market can feel like a never-ending uphill climb. Last week, I woke up to this tweet in my feed, one of many that make it all worth it. World of Women changed my life. I have no doubt that if you follow these steps that we discussed and you create your first 1,000 true fans, you guys can change lives too. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for the great talk. Nikita from Chain Patrol. When you start, when you're building that early community, especially, when it's a bull and everybody's excited, I bet there's like a bunch of different people joining your Discord. We're kind of experiencing like very early stages of this where there's kind of people who are like genuine and there's people who are kind of just like looking for like, some like early alpha or drops or whatever it is. Like, how do you, identify who's like really the person that's going to be with your community for the long term? And, then know who to spend kind of more time on and kind of engage with more?
Yeah, I think it's a great question because especially during the bull, there's a lot of people who are rushing in. There's a gold rush mentality. They're thinking, oh, can I flip this? Can I make money? And there's a huge culture around that. And obviously those people own your asset too, or they're at least trying to engage. So you also want to recognize and hear their needs. But one thing I've found is that the people who are really going to build the community are the ones that are going to do a little bit of work for you, right? So I think that it's easy to listen to a lot of loud voices of what's the roadmap, requiring extra transparency beyond like what's really going to be helpful. But I think it takes that discipline to sort of focus on, okay, who's the people who are just showing up and answering a lot of questions in the Discord? Who are the people that are willing to plan a community event and really focus on rewarding those people? Because those people are going to be the ones that really carry your community through when it gets out of the bull time and into the bear time. And we've actually hired, our community manager was, a Discord moderator. We actually brought in someone to engage with our top holders who was a moderator. And so there's kind of a funnel that you can create between like really active members of the Discord to like, volunteers to moderators to eventual team members. So I think just focusing there and at times, shutting out the noise, especially when it becomes unproductive. I think that, it's hard to do, but really important to recognize that everyone needs to be heard, but you really want to invest the people that are truly there for the mission of what you're building.
Thank you. And just one quick follow-up is like, do you do any sort of like onboarding or training with them to kind of like align them, or just let them do your thing, or like what's been useful there?
Oh, for the Discord moderators?
Yeah, moderators or just like anybody that's kind of representing your community.
Yeah, for sure. We do a moderator training, and then we basically meet with them every week to kind of talk through some of the tough issues. We brief them on what's happening with our roadmap, because I think where you can really go wrong with moderation is if your moderators are just focusing on enforcement and they're not really creating that meaningful conversation about what you're doing. So we're trying to be as transparent with them as possible of, hey, here's the answers that you need to know. Here's obviously what we, permit or don't permit, but, they have to also be able to advocate for the brand. So we do that on a weekly basis.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, my name's Adam. I'm building Bello. We're building no-code data tools for creators.
Awesome.
And curious if you guys use on-chain data to sort of figure out engagement strategies, or how you use on-chain data to figure out how engaged your community is, what that looks like.
Yeah, we have someone that looks especially at our top holders. We try to dig in from, what's available on chain in terms of, what else they're buying, what are some of the trends that we're seeing based on what we can see. I would love to be able to do that more. We actually have someone who's semi-devoted into digging this in, but if it was more available, we would probably use it in even greater capacity.
Yeah, makes sense. If you have any idea, do you know what sort of metrics you guys look at to sort of discover engagement?
We use NFT Inspect a lot, which is a really great tool. It's linked natively within Twitter, but through there you can see, kind of who's using your picture as a profile pic, which shows like really loyalty engagement. You can see who some of the top, people are that are tweeting, and we've used that to kind of deepen the most loud voices within our community and make sure that we're rewarding and nurturing them. So that one has been like especially helpful because it kind of makes it very actionable in terms of not just what's on chain, but how does that tie back into social and what we can do to amplify the whole story.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Brandon. Thanks so much for sharing your story. It's incredibly impressive. My wife is a holder of the Galaxy Edition, so
oh,
we're
thank
big
you.
fans. One of the details about the 1,000 True Fans theory is just the definition of true, which is that someone that will purchase pretty much whatever you do. And I would say that's pretty difficult even at 1,000 community member scale. Is there anything you've seen with the success of WoW in terms of the difference of retaining 1,000 True Fans versus where you are now with 400,000? Because I think consumer expectations are really, really high, whether you have 1,000, 10,000, or 100.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, the holders of our NFT is who I'm thinking of as our true fans, and even those, right? We found this, we do a lot of IP collaborations, and in the early bull, it was like, okay, any brand wants to partner, like in their mind, what they think is like, great, we're going to partner with World Women. They have all these rich holders. They'll just buy anything with a WoW on it, right? So like their idea of a collaboration is we're going to make this like super expensive product that we're going to sell, and like the WoW holders will just buy it because like they're crazy fans. And like I think that worked like the height of the bull, but now it doesn't. People have been burned, like people have lost or gained a lot in crypto. Like the people who are there, they love the community, but they still need a great product, and they still have to have a true reason to advocate for it. They still demand innovation because they want to see the project to succeed. So you can't just roll out like shitty merch anymore and expect people to buy it, right? You really have to innovate. And so I think that it just requires like constant nurturing and transparency, right? Explaining like why a collab is important for the brand, like why you want to buy something. Like you do have the people who will just do everything that you drop, but you have to keep nurturing that. That doesn't last forever, right? If you don't like continue to give them, if you're an artist, you don't keep to drop good new albums, right? If you just keep doing the same thing over and over again, people kind of burn out. So I think it's still important to be like, hey, they're bought in on this mission, but like it's my job to innovate on top of that so that they actually want to stay engaged.
1000%. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Hi, Shannon. Thanks very much for the talk. So I'm Nico from Skylab. We are building an on-chain game, and for our first product, we are incorporating some of the copyrights-free NFTs into the game as pilots, as it's like a character in the game. So I wonder, like, so for the community, what other experiences are the NFT projects trying to make for their communities?
Yeah, so one of the original ones that we did, we have a close collaboration with the Sandbox. So every WoW holder is able to play as their WoW in the Sandbox. And so we pixelized all of those WoWs, and the goal was really to make sure that if you have this as your identity, that you should be able to take it interoperably and go into whatever metaverse that you go into. So we certainly hope to build more partnerships like that. I think it is very important that these things kind of interface with gaming. And as I said in the talk, like we're always experimenting with like what are some of the new experiences, what are some of the gaming, as well as like other metaverses that we can kind of give a new experience around.
Okay, awesome. Yep, thanks.
Hi, Shannon. Thanks for the talk. I'm Locha from Fuel. We're building an affiliate marketing protocol. Just wanted to ask you 2 questions. The first one around competition. So I know there are other NFT collections that also have like, I don't know if exactly the same purpose, but similar. How do you think about that competition and how you work with these teams, or how do you differentiate from them?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think that many of the, we notice that there's a lot of NFTs that people purchase, and especially if they are really into NFTs, they'll own a lot of the top collections in addition to WoW. From a market competition standpoint, WoW has done 10x the volume of the next largest, kind of female PFP, but we know it's really important to just keep focusing on innovation. And the other thing that I think is really critical for us is like we have a diverse community. There's a lot of female PFPs that really only are speaking to the female audience, but what we've seen is that we're 60-40, and so a lot of times we're caught in this place where we want to sort of engage some of these top buyers that hold Bored Ape, hold Moonbirds, hold others in addition to WoW, and offer gamified experiences, kind of offer more of a traditional NFT experience, while also offering some of the more like networking, foundation activities, sort of mission-driven activities that make WoW really unique and special. So, we are sort of walking a very thin line because we're trying to, kind of tap into that blue chip NFT audience while also being mission-driven. But so far, I think that mix has also been very unique, which is why we're able to say that we are the largest mission-driven NFT company.
Awesome, thanks. And the second question is, like, what are the top KPIs for you? Like you mentioned, mint revenue, secondaries revenue, but like on a day-to-day basis, like what are the top numbers that you're looking at?
Yeah, I mean, certainly we look at all the sales data, we look at the floor price, I think that there's sort of those type of KPIs. But for us right now, it's all about revenue diversification, right? Because creator royalties are no longer enforceable on many marketplaces. And so ultimately, we have to focus on making sure that we have a sustainable revenue source, going ahead, which for us is IP collaborations. We make our money now on licensing deals as well as partner collabs and partner drops. So we look at, how many deals do we have in the pipeline? What's the revenue of those deals? How many people we can potentially reach so that we can expand our audience behind the, besides the traditional NFT market. We're going to have to expand broader in order for our licensing pool and available audience to get bigger. So we look a lot at that, as well as just making sure that, we are continuing to have like positive sentiment in the market, because our brand is really our best asset amid a space that hasn't I think people have a lot of different opinions about NFTs right now, but ultimately, World of Women has survived and endured because of a mission-driven focus, because of the work we've done in charity, the work we do in onboarding women and girls. So we also track, kind of sentiment in the press and sentiment in social media, because if we lose our brand, that's a huge risk factor for us.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that, Shannon. That was fantastic.